Here we go. Welcome and thanks for joining me on a classic Melbourne morning, cold, wet, and doing its best to ruin everyone's mood. But not today, because today we have chocolate. So you might want to know, why did I pick this campaign? Because it took multiple wins at the recent Cannes Crocodiles 2025. It took second place in data-driven creativity, first place in FMCG category, and third place in food and beverage. So how here? Let's talk about it. Now, before we do, a quick disclaimer. Unfortunately, we don't have the access to the full case study. So everything here is going to be on, it's going to be based on publicly available information. And I guess we'll have to fill in a lot of blanks, hopefully with fair assumptions. Okay, let's talk about the ad. So Mars partnered with Amazon Australia last year to bring back a campaign that they first launched in the year before, 2023, called For You Who Did That Thing You Did. I mean, I personally like the copy. It's bold and it actually speaks Mars to me. And if you're familiar with the one they ran in 2023, you will know that the whole idea is about celebrating the little things like surviving peak pound road traffic, and remember where you parked your car, doing your yoga, doing your squat, and so on. In this latest iteration, Mars brought the whole experience online. The brand innovation lab team at Amazon Ads built a custom generative AI solution as part of the partnership. It was fully integrated across Amazon's ecosystem, from homepage, on-set display to Prime Video, custom emails, and even the delivery packaging. So the process to claim your reward actually changed as well. So I remember in the previous one that you had to send an email to get the Mars bar, but this time it's much easier. There are two ways to trigger the reward. One was based on real-time user behavior on Amazon, and the other was through a branded landing page where you could submit the thing you did and see if it qualified. And if you won, bam, free Mars bar in your next delivery package. That's pretty cool. Now, with that in mind, let's dig into the strategy. First question, what is the business problem here? You always want to start by asking that question, because if you don't know the problem, nothing comes after will make any sense, right? According to the one-pager from Cannes Crocodiles, Mars wants to reclaim its iconic status. Well, depending on how you rate that, it could mean anything from a softening of brand power to losing market share. In this case, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it's probably both. And that's not a wild guess. Because those two things tend to go hand in hand in a lot of cases. So what do you do? What would you do to build brand power and win back market shares? Well, if you're a fan of Kantar's brand equity model like I am, here is what you do, right? You want to make your brand more recognizable to drive difference. You might want to tap into category entry points to build up mental availabilities and salience. And you might also want to stretch your market share by expanding into new distribution channels, reframe your consumption occasions and to build up frequency. And you might also want to target light buyers to drive volume, right? And that's exactly what Mars did. Guys, this review is our way of reverse engineering it, seeing if we can make sense of the thinking behind the work. So let's be honest, we advertisers love judging campaigns, right? Oh, that's crap. This is genius. I like that music. I hate that color. I mean, that's all fine. But what I have learned after years looking at this stuff is that there's always something to learn, and there's always something interesting underneath. If you just, look for it, And then if you're lucky, you got a proper aha moment, and just feels like you hit the jackpot. So yeah, let's do this. Let's see if we can make sense of everything. Well, first, let's step into the context. Um, I found a news article published in mid last year mentioned that the duopoly nature of the Australian supermarket landscape makes negotiations and product placements more challenging for brands like Mars, and they're facing huge pressure from the high production cost. So wages, logistics, energy, and ingredients. Let that sink in for a second. What we've got here are two massive structural challenges that Mars can't really fix on its own, right? You can't build a third major supermarket overnight, and you can't print more money. So, what do you do in this case? You have to go out and look for new growth opportunities. Then here's the category itself. Chocolate, it's a billion-dollar business in Australia, and it's fiercely competitive. On one hand, from supermarkets to convenience stores, from the aisles to point of sale, every inch of the space is packed, and every brand got its own territory, both physically and mentally. And on the other hand, there's the internal competition. Mars bar is up against the other Mars Wrigley products sitting on the same shelf, and sneakers and tweaks. Suddenly, Amazon starts to look like a bit of a wonderland, doesn't it? Because let's be honest, what are the other options Mars could have considered? Their existing distribution through supermarkets and petrol stations and 7-Eleven and convenience stores is already rock solid. So if you're looking for a new growth path, it's got to be online. Now, out of the top 10 e-com platforms in Australia, take out the ones that Mars already have existing relationships with, and also the ones that doesn't fit. It's probably only eBay and Kogan left who could realistically offer the kind of reach and scale that Mars need. But let's think about that for a second. Personally, I feel like eBay is still more of an auction house, right? A marketplace for buyers and sellers, rather than a brand home. Kogan, on the other hand, is all about price and function. It's all about, get the same thing for less. So to me, they both are great platforms, but I just feel like there's a lack of a brand alignment here in this specific case. Now, Amazon, on the other hand, has both the infrastructure and the flexibility to let Mars show up on its own terms. Look, this is very important. Um, it's versatile, it's trusted, and it's increasingly where Australian consumers go for essentials and small indulgences. Right? Plus, the media integration possibilities and the tech maturity are just way too hard to ignore. It's Amazon that we're talking about, right? So yeah, Wonderland might be exactly the right word. Now, I don't think I need to run the rest of the 4C analysis to further validate the logic, but just to round it out. From the commercial side, Mars needs growth and long-term brand power. From the consumer side, behavior has shifted post-COVID. For me personally, there are items I used to always buy from supermarket. Now I just subscribe to on Amazon and forget about it. So now we know why Mars went online and why Amazon. But hey, this is not a direct buy, right? This is not something like, hey, here is the brief and here is the IO, please sign and return. No, there's none of that. So why partnership? What's in it for Amazon? Well, according to Roy Morgan research, the amount of active users on Amazon.com.au reached 7.9 million in 2024. That's a 16% lift from 2023. And then if we add the 5 million ad-supported Prime Video subscribers, take out the overlap, whatever, you still got a reach of around 10 million Australians. That's like 1/3 of the country. And there's more. Amazon Ads, so that's their probably their advertising business unit. They also needed a standout case study for their new generative AI product launched in 2023. So this Mars campaign gave them the perfect opportunity to showcase their full funnel capabilities and what they can bring to the table as a creative partner instead of a media supplier. Now, I honestly think that that might be the deal maker, right? So this got to be the most important thing on Amazon's end. So, you know, kudos to Mars, Amazon, Essence Mediacom, and Thinkerbell for seizing such a mutually beneficial opportunity, right? This is how it's done. Like this is what a top-notch partnership looks like in advertising. Now, taking everything we've discussed so far, want to take a guess on what is the media strategy on the Brave? Um, you know, I'll go first. I would say something like, create a personal and rewarding experience to drive emotional engagement with online shoppers. Yeah, more or less. Look, this campaign is not about short-term sales, right? Like a buy one get one free campaign just won't cut it. It's about creating meaningful brand experience in digital environments where Mars hasn't traditionally dominated, right? And by doing this, we're opening up a new pathway for growth, which is data rich, emotionally resonant, and it's built around how people live and shop today. But you know what's interesting? Even though the campaign didn't scream buy me, Mars Bar still recorded a 67% sales lift on Amazon compared to the monthly average. So it's like, getting a cherry on top. Well, before we finish this episode, what can we take away from this Mars campaign? If there's only one thing that I think you should remember is the power of a good partnership, right? If you read the book Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, Richard Rumelt actually, he talked about leverage in his book. How good strategy focuses on a single move that unlocks a cascade of wins, right? So partnership, good partnership give you that in advertising. Well, that's it. That's our first campaign review. I hope you liked it. And just before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you want me to go deeper on something, or do you want me to talk about something else? Let me know, please. You can reach me at podcast@barelycreative.com.au, and more than welcome if you just want to have a conversation. The next episode will drop in a couple of days, and surprisingly, we'll be talking about my personal favorite ad of the first half of 2025. Thank you for listening, guys, and I'll see you soon.